Regiments have been added into World of Tanks console, but there is an exclusive vehicle to regiments. It is a tier 5. You can find it in the store page under regiments. It is the ARMT for 30,000 regiment coins, of which it's going to take you a little bit of time to actually purchase, because 30,000 is a hell of a lot considering you can get a maximum of around 40 points per game if you don't have a premium account and 60 points per game if you do, meaning that it would take you 500 games, I believe, if my maths is correct, in order to get that. So, ARMT. What is it all about? This is a tier 5 medium vehicle that is really something interesting. We can take a look at the statistics of this tank. It is an autoloader, but there are some weird things about it. It has 15 degrees of depression, which is really good. It's very good on a ridgeline. Has 60 degrees of elevation, which is very crazy, almost artillery-like. And it is a medium, so it gets okay DPM. It's not outrageous, and to be honest with you, it kind of feels like it's on the lower end. You can see things like the Ripper have nearly double the DPM. M4 Sherman, yet again, nearly double the DPM. And that's because you have a clip in this tank. It's one of the first low tier vehicles to have a clip. It isn't probably the first, but it does have a 3-shot autoloader. But the problem with it is that it has such a long inch-clip reload that it kind of makes the tank almost pointless as to having an autoloader, because most vehicles, so if we take the M4 Sherman for example, reloads in 3.5 seconds, but the ARMT has a extremely long reload to reload all 3 of those rounds. It's 11.93 seconds, meaning that you can get out DPM'd so quickly by other vehicles at this tier, even when you have, you know, the autoloader. So it kind of makes the tank lackluster in terms of its damage department. You are not going to be the core damage dealer, to be honest, with this vehicle, albeit we had some decent games within it. But what you do have is pretty darn good view range. We're running it with a view range setup because you can't do anything with the DPM because it's an autoloader. It doesn't get advanced loader. It doesn't get vertical stabilizers, which is a strange one because this would actually make the tank significantly better, because the accuracy of this vehicle is not the best, to be honest with you. It has 0.33 accuracy. That is with all of the possible accuracy bonuses that I've got on my crew skills, alongside, you know, having vents as well, I believe, on this tank. So yeah, it definitely kind of sucks in that way. So commander skills wise, you should probably run without mark target, and we would swap this out for something like, where would it be? We've got maybe green thumb on it or something like that. And then I would probably have silent driving on this thing just to reduce the effect of moving when I'm moving with this tank, so you can spot a little bit easier. But 484 view range is very good. You can often get a lot of assistance damage, and one of those games that I'm going to showcase in a minute is definitely going to showcase that. The hit points of the vehicle, 600. It is on the fairly low side, but it's kind of, you know, that mid-range between a lot of the other tanks in the game. But you're certainly outclassed by heavy vehicles at the tier. And of course, those heavy vehicles typically have more DPM than you, which is always really fun. However, that clip potential can come in quite useful, dealing what it would be in equivalent 345 damage in one little burst. So it would take you 5 seconds to fully unload this tank from 0 to unloading 3 shells. So essentially you get an extra shell compared to some of the other tanks at the tier that do have higher DPM. But of course then you've got a 12-second reload, and that can come in really annoying at the tier. So in my opinion, what I would do if I was trying to balance this tank just a little bit more is just reduce that reload time by about 1.5 seconds, maybe 2 seconds for the actual full clip, and that would make this tank a hell of a lot more usable, I think, because at the end of the day, it's a Clan Wars reward tank. It's supposed to be something to kind of go after and earn by playing in your clan. But at the moment, it's got enough novelty to it that I think people will like it just because it looks very weird. It has some nuance to it. It has that 15 degrees of gun depression. It has decent view range. But once again, this tank is huge as well. So this is the T14 and this is the ARMT. The ARMT is much, much taller than this heavy tank. And so, yeah, that is an issue when it comes to this thing. As well as the fact that this does play up against tier 7s. I didn't find any tier 7 games when I was playing it. But that is going to be significantly impact the tank. Its armor absolutely sucks. It has like no armor, so you get impenned by absolutely anything and everything. Its upper plate could bounce if someone has really low penetration, firing standard rounds, and their actual penetration on those standard rounds is diabolical. But for the most part, it's going to get penned. The side armor's garbage, and it's just a giant pool of hit points for the enemy team to farm. So that's why you have to use the camo, in my opinion, to make this tank really work. And at the low tiers, obviously, you know, it's debatable whether most people even take equipment in low tier vehicles. I did for the sake of seeing what this tank can do. I think without equipment, this tank's going to be horrendous, like diabolically bad. But with equipment, it allows you to at least optimize the best bits about it and makes it into a tank that is kind of interesting, is a bit nuanced, and has something about it that isn't just your bog standard stuff. So what else? Engine power feels terrible. It feels really sluggish. It feels really slow. And for a medium, that is not great down at this tier. Combine that with the fact that you've got, you know, the lackluster DPM. Probably one of the worst at tier 5, even when you compare it to something like a T67, which has nearly double the DPM. Has, you know, the ability to go 61 kilometers an hour, crazy view range, crazy good concealment, is much, much smaller and only has 100 hit points less. I don't see why you would play the ARMT over something like a T67. It's not even comparable as to which one you would play if you wanted like the most competitive games. But World of Tanks isn't about always playing the most competitive things that can get boring, and in fact my favourite vehicles are ones that aren't necessarily that overpowered, or, you know, I mean, my first ever 4 mark, one of my favourite tanks in the game is the Excalibur, this tank right here, the Frog. And yeah, it's not a good tank for most people, but I loved it because it has something a bit different about it. It is interesting to play and stuff like that. So that's why I think some of these tanks have appeal, and I would definitely go towards it. I mean, you can't spend your regiment coins on anything else right now, but I do think that they will be bringing out more regiments, things that you can spend your money on. So I think you should be a little bit careful with where you're going to spend your coins. Remember that your regiments also have daily missions, which give you a lot of the coins. So if just by winning 3 battles, destroying 10 vehicles, using a consumable in 5 battles, completing all daily tasks, you're getting like, what, 200? So yeah, like 300 points per day. So it should take you 100 days of just completing the daily missions, let alone, you know, you're getting points every single game, especially if you're platooning up with your regiment members. So that is something to take note of. But would I recommend at this moment in time, considering how long it's going to take you to actually grind out to get the tank itself? I'm not entirely sure, because we may see some more regiment tanks come in as time goes on. So maybe by the time that you get the points for this one, you might actually want to go ahead and grind for a different regiment tank, which may be released. I don't know. There's no communication from Wargaming. I'm speculating as to, you know, there's probably going to be more tanks available, so you might want to use those points for something different in terms of competitiveness. But I really enjoyed playing this so far. I can show you the stats that we have with the tank, just because you'll be able to see it. So we can now filter by tank, and we can go American and medium. And the ARMT, we had 6 battles averaging 1300 damage per game, 66% wins. It doesn't really matter at this such a low amount of games. 11% or 11.7% damage standing, and destroyed per game 2.67, hit ratio 79. The tank definitely has some issues with bloom once you do fire the first shell, which means you do even sometimes have to wait to fully aim before you fire the second shell, even though you are reloaded, which is always a very bad issue when it comes to autoloaders, because then it takes away the whole point about having a autoloader, about being able to output lots of damage very quickly. So that is yet again another thing to kind of take note of. But yeah, it was a really fun tank to play. Let's jump into the gameplay. You'll see exactly why and kind of how the gameplay actually plays out with this tank. So the first replay that we do have is Redshire, and Redshire is a pretty good map for this tank. It has a lot of hills. This tank has 15 degrees of gun depression, which allows us to do some pretty crazy work on those hills. You don't have to expose all too much of your vehicle. It increases the armor angling of the turret when you're using the actual hill itself, because you know your tank's angled up, and so the top of the turret is angled, albeit because the top of the turret and like the face of the turret is not particularly very well angled to begin with. It is entirely flat. It doesn't do a whole lot, but you can maybe pull off a couple of bounces. But we are going to take the hill area directly up by where we are right now. We put one into the Largo, and rather than staying there because there's the whole enemy team around, we're going to pull back. We could have got one more off on him, but we're going to push down over to this location because I'm hoping that I can spot for the team. But we find ourselves the Largo there, and we go for an auto aim. It only tracks him, and we get the second one off there. So, not the greatest of starts to the game. Our team has lost a tank already. It was a light tank who went in a little bit too BZ. And now we've got ourselves a 45 TP. This is the crazy depression that you can get with this tank. You don't have to expose as much of your tank as some of the others when you're using the gun depression and can actually get a shot. Unfortunately, we get hit by something in the background, and we've got ourselves a little Crusader over here. This is where you're going to see the gun depression really come in, because we come up over here and I can already hit him before we've even really pulled over the ridgeline. Now, unfortunately, we have a quick look at the light tank just to see what it is, and we get one into the KV-1, but now we have that long reload, and this is the issue with this tank. You have so many big areas where like you're not going to be able to do any damage within the game, like so many big time periods where you can't do anything, and obviously you don't have the biggest alpha damage anyway. Even when you are fully reloaded, 345, yes, it's good, but you're still having to wait 5 seconds to get that damage out, and obviously everything else can hit you and they can pen you every single time, so you've got to be a bit more sneaky, which is what we're doing right here. I want to get further back, allow myself the time to actually get a couple shots. We try and put one into the Crusader, but unfortunately it doesn't hit. We then land a second one there, and we just pre-aim for where he's gonna be, and that one hits. So obviously in a tier 5 game, a good game, well, in any game, typically like a good game would be somewhere where you're actually hitting maybe 3 times the hit points of your vehicle. That's a really good game. That's a good game to actually have. You know you've done well if you've taken out 3 of yourself, basically. That can be obviously skewed if you're playing something like an E100 or a Mouse or something with like, you know, nearly 3,000 hit points or something like that at tier 10. But yes, a good game would be about 3 times your hit points for like the general tanks in the game. Now, obviously this is not looking good. We are down by quite a few tanks, and obviously although the enemy team have less hit points between them, they do have the tank advantage, which is probably one of the biggest things, is that you can get multiple hits into you when you do have multiple tanks alive. So even if there's 3 vehicles and they're all one shot, you know, if I'm not playing an autoloader, they're all going to hit me, and I'm going to have to spend time taking them out individually. Now, this Crusader just YOLOs on in, so I was trying to go for a tracking shot here. He's obviously got the artillery syndrome here, where he's just going for the artillery, but he gets taken out quite easily. But now we really are suffering in terms of tanks. We're down by 3 tanks, which is probably the biggest thing. I have a little bit of hit points left on me. We've got a KV-1 who's now pushing up, and I'm kind of wanting to get rid of him, but we spot ourselves a Ho-Ni. Now the reason I went for that guy is simply because I have enough hit points or enough shots to take both the KV-1 and the Ho-Ni out at the same time. So we bring back the amount of tanks in the game back to in our favor, and we've obviously got more hit points. So at this point I'm thinking, right, let's get rid of some of these vehicles. The Panzer IV-H is down here. Let's get rid of him. That's going to help our team out. And you can see the depression here, able to hit that guy. He actually hits us with that one, and the Marder ends up being back there, so we put one into him. And now we are going to try and relocate, because that medium tank is most likely coming for us. And there you go, there he is. And so I'm going to push up the hill. That gives me the advantage. Should make it harder for people to be able to hit me. So we're going to make our way up here. Now, the aim here was to track this medium in the air, because he's got a lot of hit points, so we don't really want to get hit by him. And here you go. We go for the tracking shot. It doesn't track him. We get stuck on the rock, and that is an absolute shambles. I put one more into him. I'm hoping that my team will be able to hit him, but no one does. And unfortunately for me, we do not have anything in terms of left in this game. And whilst we do have a KV-1S, a Bogatia, and a B1, with the B1 on a ton of hit points, yeah, we still are not looking like we are going to win this game, and we don't in the end. The B1 is just rolling around in the middle. I assume being a lower tier vehicle, it could be a new player or something like this, but yeah, he ends up getting taken out by the Marder 38T, which has the most ridiculous DPM in the game, and will outtrade even an autoloader like myself when I'm firing all of my shells like instantly as soon as I reload. And of course, because he can pen me, that means he's going to have 100% effective DPM if he can hit me. So that tank is a very, very good tank overall. But that's that game. But we do have another one to showcase, something a bit different in terms of damage wise. But we have a little bit more assistance. And that game comes in with Serene Coast. Obviously, this is it probably isn't a very good map for this tank, because a lot of the engagements are brawling, or if you're having to snipe, this tank doesn't get the best bloom, which makes sniping much more difficult to do. So we're going to have to try and play in a bit more of a spotting role, something where we're aiming to essentially just be the spotter for the team and then pick off some damage throughout the game. A lot of people end up getting like autoloader syndrome, which is where they like realize they've got 3 shots in their clip and they're just going to go in to deal 3 shots of damage. This is not even worth it in this tank, because that's not even, it's about half your hit points. It's just over half your hit points that you can deal. So you're not even going to be able to deal with the same amount of damage as your health of your tank. So it's a complete waste to go in. And most people do that with autoloaders. They kind of go in for some unbeknownst reason, thinking that they're going to do, you know, 1 clip of damage and that is somehow good. We're not going to do that. We're going to actually sit back, relax, and kind of take in what is around. So with the M5A1 Stuart down, that's the light tank on the enemy team, it gives us the opportunity to push forward. And in pushing forward, it appeared like there was a lot of enemy tanks that were kind of sat in the back of the map. And there you go, we're already spotted one. He is getting lit up by all of the camping TDs and mediums that we've got on our team. And he gets absolutely steamed ham there. So we're up to 500 assist already, purely spotting damage as well. But obviously that's not the only thing that we want to do in this game. I'm trying to push up, I'd put cover me. And the idea is that we'll spot all of these campers who are lying back outside of the view range that aren't used to being spotted. We managed to land quite a few hits here. We managed to spot quite a few vehicles, and our team are putting in some excellent work. We're up to 1400 assist. And that's simply because our view range is like max view range in a tier 5, like well over max view range in a tier 5 vehicle. So yeah, it's very, very good, and that allows us to spot, which is the whole point of a tank like this. And at this point I'm thinking, you know what, let's just push the advantage. I could play a little bit differently, and having played this game, I would have played a little differently, but we find ourselves the Wolverine here. We land 2 shots into him, finish him off. Now, I could have stopped and tried to get the artillery, but I was thinking that this game is just a steamroll anyway, so why not just push forward the advantage? I'm trying to get a shot on the B1, but he's behind, so we take the reload. We've got quite a long one, so by the time we get to a tank that we can actually hit, we should be reloaded. We've got full hit points. It looks pretty darn good for us. And now we are just going to basically push forward. There's a TD and a medium over on the left, but we shouldn't have to worry about them. We're up to 2.7k assistance damage in this game. And can we find ourselves a tank? We find the B1. We put 1 into him and another one. And we can't finish him off, and we're going to have to wait at 10 seconds. And in that 10-second period, you have that annoying thing where you can't really do a whole lot. So we've got a Panzer IV-H over here, and now poking him, probably not the best idea. I thought I could see him. There's a medium tank now clipping me in the backside. It's a T-28, not good, and you can see he's dealing more damage to me in the same amount of time it's taken me to reload 1 shell, which is kind of the problem with this tank, is that even tier 4s can have more DPM than you. Yeah, it's not ideal, and you can quickly get rinsed out of the game. You saw there, I mean, there were 3 tanks around me, and we'd already lost a bit of health, but at the same time, yeah, that long reload does make you suffer, and it means you can't even finish off those low health tanks, like prioritize a target when you don't have any shells left. Whereas when you are in something like a single shot, you're going to be able to do that because you can focus on the person who is lowest health, finish them off. Whereas with an autoloader, once you're on that reload, if you fired off all your shells, you then have to wait to fully reload before you can then take out a tank. And so in that time period, you could have got hit multiple times by someone that you would have finished off if you had a single shot. That may surprise you, something like that T-28, for example. So that is definitely something that can be an issue with this tank. It definitely is an issue. And with 2,811 assistance and of course 1,044 damage, it was a pretty good result. But that's the sort of thing that you can expect with this tank. Both good assistance damage games. Sometimes you can have some really good damage games. I certainly was struggling with getting those super high elite level games where you're having 3k damage consistently or whatever. But yeah, this tank definitely takes a little bit of getting used to. And I suspect if you play it a little bit more passively than what I usually do in tanks, you can have some much better results where you're waiting for people to kind of come out and farming them that way. But I like getting involved and trying to push forward. Always feels much better, even if you do make a few mistakes, but you'll learn much quicker that way. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Is the tank actually worth the clan regiment coins? I mean, at the moment, it's pretty much the only thing you can get, so yes. But in the future, if you're watching this later on down the line by some unbeknownst reason, then I do believe that it may be worth having a look at some of the other reviews of any new regiment store tanks that you could potentially purchase, because this one is probably not that competitive. In fact, it's probably subpar in most regards, but it's still balanced. I think it works. It has very good view range. It has some nuance to it. It's interesting, and in my opinion, I love the interesting, weird vehicles, and this is definitely one of them. So hopefully you enjoyed. Make sure to like it if you did, and of course subscribe for more World of Tanks console content, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.